I never imagined that a single evening could change the way I saw myself, my life, and even the quiet little world inside my home. But what happened that night still echoes inside me. And honestly, I don't even know how to begin except by saying this. I came home shaking so badly that I could barely put my key in the door. Yet what my cat did the moment I stepped inside made me burst into tears. If you've ever felt that kind of overwhelming fear, relief, and love mixing together all at once, then you might understand why I still get emotional just thinking about it. My name is Emily, and I live alone. Well, alone except for my cat, Oliver. Oliver is a 3-year-old tabby with big round eyes and a personality that feels too human sometimes. He's playful and curious, but more than anything, he has this quiet sensitivity that always made me joke he could read my mind. I used to think that was just me being dramatic, but after that night, I don't think it's a joke anymore. The whole day had started normally, work, errands, the typical rush of life. But things started to unravel later that evening when I had to walk to my car alone after staying late. The parking lot was almost empty, the kind of empty that makes every sound echo and every shadow stretch farther than it should. I remember feeling a strange tension crawling up my spine before anything even happened. Like I knew something was off before I could explain why. I kept telling myself I was overthinking. I even laughed a little under my breath to calm myself down. But the moment I heard fast footsteps behind me, everything inside me froze. I didn't turn around at first. I couldn't. I just gripped my bag tighter and walked faster, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the rest of the world. The footsteps came closer, matching my pace, then speeding up. I don't want to go into details because even now it's something I'd rather leave behind, but what I can say is that those moments, those few horrible moments, left me shaking so violently that I felt like I had lost control of my own body. Eventually things de-escalated, enough for me to get back into my car, lock the doors, and breathe again. But it didn't feel like breathing. It felt like gasping, like my lungs didn't know how to work anymore. I sat there for several minutes with my forehead pressed against the steering wheel, trying to convince myself I was okay, that I was safe now. But my hands wouldn't stop trembling. My knees wouldn't stop shaking. And no matter how much I tried to swallow it down, tears started streaming down my face. I wasn't hurt, but I wasn't okay. Not even close. The fear had rooted itself so deeply inside me that it felt like it was pulsing in my veins. When I finally drove home, I kept checking my mirrors, jumpy at every car that appeared behind me. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my body felt like a tightly wound spring ready to snap. I don't know how I made it up the steps to my front door. My fingers were stiff, cold, and barely responsive. I dropped my keys twice before finally getting them into the lock. And when the door creaked open, the house felt too quiet, too still. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me with this mix of relief and panic that made no sense at all. I wanted to curl up on the floor and cry. I wanted someone to hug me, to tell me I was all right. But I lived alone. I had no one to collapse into. Or so I thought. Because the moment I slid the door shut, I heard a soft, questioning meow. Oliver had been waiting right there in the hallway, sitting with his tail curled around his paws, like he had been guarding the entrance. His eyes were wide and alert, fixed on me as if he sensed something was wrong before I even said a word. Normally he'd greet me with playful chirps or roll onto his back expecting belly rubs. But this time he didn't move. He just stared at me with this intense, almost worried expression. I tried to take a step toward him, but my legs shook so badly I had to steady myself against the wall. And Oliver, my sweet, quiet Oliver, walked toward me slowly, almost cautiously, like he was approaching someone in pain. He lifted his head, sniffed my hand, and then pressed his cheek against my fingers with a gentleness that completely broke me. I collapsed to my knees right there in the hallway. I didn't even mean to. My body just gave out. The tears rushed out of me all at once, and a sob tore from my chest that I couldn't control. I covered my face, ashamed of how intensely everything was hitting me, and for a second, I felt completely alone again. But then Oliver climbed into my lap. Not jumped, not pounced. He climbed, carefully placing one paw on my knee, then another, until he was curled up right against my stomach. He pressed his body into mine, warm and steady, and started purring louder than I'd ever heard him purr before. It was a deep, rolling sound that vibrated through my ribs and made my breathing slow down despite my tears. He rubbed his head under my chin, like he was trying to anchor me, trying to remind me that I was here, home, safe. And something inside me cracked open completely. I wrapped my arms around him and held him against my chest, burying my face in his fur while my whole body shook. I must have whispered, "I'm okay," 100 times, even though I didn't believe it yet. But holding him, feeling that steady vibration of his purr, his soft fur, his warmth, I felt my breath finally start to loosen. Every slow inhale felt a little less tight. Every exhale felt like I was releasing something that had been trapped inside me. It wasn't just comfort. It was like he was grounding me back into my own body. Oliver didn't leave my lap for a long time. He didn't shift, or try to play or wiggle away. He stayed exactly where he was, purring deeply, like his only job in the world was to keep me together. And honestly, in that moment, it worked better than anything else could have. Eventually, I stood up and carried him to the couch, because my legs were still unsteady. I sat down, and he stretched his body across my thighs like a warm blanket. I stroked his fur rhythmically, letting the softness of it calm my nerves a little more. At one point, he lifted his head and tapped my cheek with his paw, something he rarely did. I don't know if he was checking on me or wiping away a tear, but it made me break down all over again. Not out of fear this time, but out of overwhelming gratitude. "Thank you," I kept whispering to him. "Thank you for being here." And each time I said it, his purring got louder, like he understood exactly what those words meant. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. The room gradually drifted from tense to peaceful, and my breathing finally felt normal again. But the emotional weight of everything still clung to me. I was exhausted, completely drained. I leaned back into the couch cushions, and Oliver curled himself into a tighter ball on my lap, refusing to move even when I shifted slightly. He had decided that his place was with me, and nothing was going to change that. At some point, I realized I hadn't even taken off my shoes. I hadn't turned on a single light. I was just sitting in the dark living room with my cat in my lap, letting the silence and his presence do what my mind couldn't. The house felt different now. Not empty, not quiet in a scary way. More like a sanctuary, protected and warm because he was there with me. After a while, I reached for my phone with a shaky hand and turned it face down again almost immediately. I couldn't deal with messages, notifications, or anything that would pull me back to the outside world. I needed this moment. I needed Oliver. And he seemed to know that without me saying a word. Eventually, I whispered, "Let's go to bed, buddy." But even then, when I stood up, Oliver wouldn't leave my side. He walked right next to me, his tail brushing against my leg like he was guiding me down the hallway. When I stopped to change clothes, he sat facing me, watching me intently like he was guarding me from something invisible. When I finally crawled into bed, he jumped up beside me and curled against my chest. Normally, he sleeps at my feet, but not that night. He refused to be more than a breath away from me. I wrapped my arm around him, and for the first time since everything happened, I felt my body fully relax. I drifted into sleep with his warmth pressed against me, thinking that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I felt. The next morning, I woke up with him still tucked under my arm, his head resting on my shoulder. And seeing that made tears spring to my eyes all over again. Not from fear this time, but from the realization of how deeply he cared. It was a quiet, gentle kind of love, the kind you don't fully appreciate until you really need it. I spent the day trying to process everything, moving slowly through my house like I was recovering from something heavy, and Oliver followed me everywhere. If I sat, he climbed into my lap. If I stood, he brushed against my legs. If I cried again, he nudged his head under my chin. He acted like he had made it his mission to heal me, piece by piece. And the strangest thing? It worked. Not instantly, not perfectly, but it worked in ways I didn't expect. His presence made the fear less overwhelming. His attentiveness made the world feel safe again. And the more I let myself absorb that comfort, the more I began to feel like myself again. What happened that night could have left me broken for a long time. Maybe it still will, in ways I haven't fully understood yet. But something shifted inside me because of Oliver. He reminded me of my strength in the most unexpected way. By simply being there, steady and devoted, when my whole body felt like it was falling apart. And that's why, even now, months later, whenever I come home after a long day, the first thing I do is kneel down and greet him properly. I hold him close. I let him rub his head against my cheek. Because he wasn't just comforting me that night. He was saving me from a darkness I didn't know how to navigate alone. He may just be a cat to some people, but to me, he's the reason I made it through that evening without losing myself. In the days that followed, something changed between me and Oliver. Something subtle, but undeniable. It's like he had stepped into a role he didn't know he was capable of filling until the moment I needed him most. And I found myself watching him differently too, noticing the way he observed everything, the way his ears twitched when he sensed tension in the air, the way he stayed close whenever my thoughts drifted back to that night. He wasn't just a pet anymore. He had become my anchor. For the first few mornings, I woke up feeling a mix of lingering fear and exhaustion, as if my mind hadn't fully escaped from the grip of the night before. And every time I would open my eyes to find Oliver lying on top of my stomach, or curled directly against my side, his eyes half open as if keeping watch. I hadn't realized before how deeply animals could sense emotional distress, but there was no question that he knew something inside me had shifted. He didn't treat me like he normally did. No playful demands for food, no sudden zooming across the house. Instead, he was slow, deliberate, gentle, like every movement was chosen with care. One afternoon stands out to me vividly. I was sitting at the kitchen table staring at my untouched cup of tea when the weight of everything suddenly crashed over me again. The memory of the footsteps behind me, the fear choking me, the shaking that wouldn't stop. It all hit me like a wave I didn't see coming. My chest tightened and my breathing became shallow. I didn't mean to start crying again, but the tears spilled over before I had time to stop them. And there he was. Oliver had been sitting nearby, watching the birds outside the window. But the moment I let out a shaky breath, he turned his head sharply. He hopped onto the table, walked directly across my notebook, and sat right in front of me. He placed one paw on my arm, looked straight into my face, and let out the softest meow. It wasn't his usual feed me meow. It was softer, rounder, almost questioning. It felt like he was asking, "Are you hurting again?" "I'm here." I reached for him with trembling hands and pulled him into my chest, and he pressed his chin against my collarbone. His purring started low and slow, then grew stronger and steadier, as if he was trying to drown out the noise inside my mind. I remember closing my eyes and inhaling deeply, letting the warmth of his little body tether me back to the present. The storm inside me quieted, and for several minutes, all I did was breathe with him in my arms. He made the tears stop, not because he did anything dramatic, but because his presence reminded me that I wasn't alone, even when I felt like I was. That became a pattern. Whenever the fear bubbled up, unexpected, sharp, overwhelming, Oliver would appear from wherever he was and position himself right on top of me or beside me, insisting on being part of the moment. I started wondering if he was listening for changes in my breathing, or if he somehow sensed the emotional shift before it even reached my face. I didn't understand how it worked, but I stopped questioning it. I accepted it like a gift. One evening, about a week later, I decided I needed fresh air. Even though I was still a bit scared to step outside, cabin fever had begun creeping in, and I felt trapped in my thoughts. So I slid open the back door and stepped out onto the porch. Oliver followed instantly, weaving between my ankles like he always did when I ventured outside. It was peaceful. The soft rustling of leaves, the fading sunlight, the quiet hum of the neighborhood. But the moment a sudden noise echoed from the street, my body tensed automatically. Without hesitation, Oliver pressed his whole side against my leg. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He stayed rooted next to me, steady and calm, like he was lending me his courage. And that small gesture made me breathe again. I knelt down and stroked his back, whispering, "Thank you, baby. I'm trying. I really am." His eyes narrowed gently, and he leaned his head into my hand. Inside, it became clear that Oliver's presence was more than emotional comfort. He was helping me reclaim my sense of safety. I began sleeping better, moving through the house more easily, and slowly reintroducing myself to parts of my routine that I had been avoiding. Some days were harder than others, but he was always near me, on my lap, on my pillow, on the rug at my feet, even following me to the bathroom like a furry little guardian who refused to take a break. One night, I sat on the couch watching a movie when I felt a sudden surge of fear again, this time triggered by something in the film that hit too close to home. My breath caught in my throat, and my fingers clutched the blanket tighter. Before I could even react, Oliver climbed onto my chest and planted himself there firmly, like a weighted blanket. He stretched his paws gently over my shoulders, lay down, and started purring with a frequency so steady, it felt like a heartbeat against my own. I wrapped my arms around him and whispered, "I don't deserve you." But he just blinked slowly and rested his forehead against my chin, telling me without words that he wasn't going anywhere. Over time, I began noticing patterns I missed before. On particularly difficult mornings, he wouldn't let me leave the bed until he had kneaded my stomach for a solid minute. On the days I came home looking worn out, he'd greet me with softer vocalizations instead of his usual excited ones. And whenever I felt overwhelmed, his instinct was always the same: find me, touch me, ground me. It made me think back to that night when I came home shaking. I realized now that he had sensed something was wrong the instant I walked through the door. He didn't need me to explain. My body language, my energy, my breathing, he read all of it. And instead of panicking or hiding, he ran toward me. He chose to comfort me, even when I couldn't comfort myself. The most powerful moment happened about a month after the incident. I had just returned from work, still exhausted but trying my best to move forward. When I walked inside, Oliver didn't run up to me immediately. Instead, he sat on the far end of the hallway, watching me carefully. I didn't realize until later that he was waiting for something, waiting to see if I was okay, if I needed him the way I did before. I put my bag down and sighed deeply, leaning against the wall for a moment, and that must have been his cue. Oliver trotted up to me, rose onto his back legs, and stretched his paws up my thigh. It was such a simple gesture, but it brought tears instantly to my eyes. I leaned down and picked him up, holding him against my chest, and he curled his body into my arms like he had been made to fit there. In that moment, all the fear, all the shaking, all the anxiety that had haunted me since that night felt like it had loosened its grip. I wasn't healed completely, not yet, but I felt stronger. I felt safer. And I knew without a doubt that Oliver had played a huge part in that. It's strange, isn't it? How an animal who can't speak our language can still communicate exactly what we need. How they can sense our emotions with a clarity we sometimes don't even have ourselves. I don't know what I would have done without him. Some people say cats are aloof or independent, but they don't understand what it's like to be truly seen by one. To have a creature so small offer love so big it fills cracks inside you that you didn't know were there. To this day, whenever I think back to the moment I walked through my door shaking, I remember the look in Oliver's eyes, the concern, the recognition, the immediate decision to comfort me. That moment changed everything. It was the first time I realized how deeply connected we really were. Now, whenever someone asks me why I love my cat so much, I never know how to explain it in simple words. How do you tell someone that a tiny creature with soft paws and round eyes once held you together when your world felt like it was falling apart? How do you explain that he became your strength when your voice trembled and your knees shook and your heart felt too fragile to carry on? Oliver didn't save me in a dramatic or heroic way. He saved me by being there, truly there, when I felt broken. And that kind of presence, it changes you. It humbles you. It teaches you that healing doesn't always come from people or words or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from something as small and gentle as a cat pressing its warmth into your chest when you can barely breathe. Even now, long after the trembling stopped, he still curls up beside me at night. And every time he does, I remember the comfort he gave me when I needed it most. I stroke his fur, whisper goodnight, and thank him silently for choosing me, not just as his person, but as someone he decided to protect in his own special way. I don't know if I'll ever forget what happened that night, but I do know that I'm not defined by it. I'm not controlled by it. And a big part of that is because Oliver helped me find my way back to myself. I came home shaking, overwhelmed, terrified. But he reacted with a love so pure that it shattered me in the best way possible, letting the healing begin. And I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. Thank you so much for listening to my story and for staying with me until the end. It means more than you know to share this moment with you. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with someone who might need a reminder of the quiet strength our animals give us every day. Thank you again. Truly.